This is my 20-year-old Harbor Freight 100 amp MIG welder. I'm doing some mods to it to turn it into a DC welder. Much better. Well, AC MIG welder is garbage. Puts out such a poor weld. There's a bridge rectifier that's on the other side. These two bolts I put in here, they're holding it on the other side. That along with the fan and this capacitor, which is not sure if you can see that, 30,000 microfarad at 50 volts. The whole purpose of this is last in line coming out of the bridge rectifier, the DC current. You tie in, here's positive, here's negative. You tie this to the ground wire because now it's ground positive, and the other terminal ties into the output of your your little gun, and it basically grabs some of that high current coming out of the rectifier, and then when the rectifier comes down a little bit in 60 times a second, this will discharge and actually smooth it out to make it more of a real smooth weld. Power coming out, which would be a smooth weld. You can see down here, there's my bridge rectifier. And I beefed up this cord. This is now a 12 gauge. It was a 14 before, now it's a 12. And I added a little length to it. That was the whole purpose, is I can get 12 feet out of this at 12 gauge instead of 6 feet at 14. Anyways, I'm no pro at making these videos. Once I get this all completed and done, I'll do another video and show you how smooth it welds. I've already fired it up with the bridge rectifier, and it puts out such a smooth weld compared to what it did before. I got this welder for 30 bucks. This cable here, this jacket I should call it, was just shot. It was deteriorated, and every time you try to bend this thing, it cracks. All the wires are hanging out like horrible. And what that did was see the little red tip there? That's a sleeve that your wire runs through. And without the help of this rigid jacket, that sleeve would kink and bend and the wire stops. It'll burn up your little wire feed motor, and it'll break the wire, come to a stop, whatever. But this is basically, see, everything I did here was pretty much repurposed stuff. This is a good quality rubber garden hose. I cut a 6-foot length off of it, and it fit everything up perfect, and it has really nice, supple enough to where it bends around, but yet it's rigid enough to where it keeps that tube straight enough to where the wire feeds really well. I also changed out the what's called the ground clamp, but in this instance now the ground is a positive charge. This is like 10 bucks on Amazon. I got this out of a heater that I had, a little portable heater. You'd be surprised, some of those are real compact little blowing fans. A lot of people want to do 12 volts DC on the fan when they're hooking it up. This is a 120 AC, and it's only pulling 13 watts, and it puts out just enough nice air to blow over these things and keep them cool. And when you're cooling this down, what you're actually accomplishing, you're raising the duty cycle. Duty cycle is the length of time that you can continuously weld. A machine that's considered 100% duty cycle are the most expensive because they're engineered to where you can just non-stop pull that trigger and it's going to, and the internals inside are set up to where they can dissipate that heat effectively to where you can run it all day. These come at a 10% duty cycle, which means you're good for a minute, and then you gotta let it cool for like 9 minutes before you try to weld anything else. I believe it has a little heat sensor in the back touching the windings and the transformer. When it heats up to a certain point, that little switch will disconnect and not let it weld. And when it cools back down, you can weld again. That's a horrible way to turn it on and off because you're pushing it maximum. And who's to say that little switch knows the exact critical point. I would say if you keep doing that, letting that switch turn you on and off, it's a matter of time till you burn it up. Something's going to give. So I would say this at least is going to bring it up with the fan blowing over everything. It's going to bring it up to 20%. I could weld 2 minutes, something like that, you know. And I really don't have that much invested in this. It's more of a hobby, a project. And at the same time, I'm left with a decent little welder that'll put out a good bead for automotive stuff, you know, body work. I build chain link gates, and out of straight 1 5/8 inch tubing notched, I'll lay it down and get it all square, and this is a perfect welder to weld it all together and make gates. So something to look forward to. All right, I apologize for my amateur video here. My whole intention is to give you some information. I'll tell you where I got these parts if you leave me a message in the comments. All right.